Thank you, everyone. We are on, and we're grateful for everyone attending and viewing the meeting of the Mashpee School Committee on January 6th, 2016. First item on the agenda, pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I don't see anyone listed on the sheet, but if anyone at this time would like to stick their hand up and recognize, we can accommodate. Seeing none, we will move on to the next item on the agenda is update from student liaison Frederick Hannah. Frederick Hannah has a legitimate excuse to be absent. I'm sure he's studying. And so the next item on the agenda is update from school, Coon School Principal Wendy Lithman. Wendy, please.
Good evening, everyone. Chairman McGee, Mr. Myers, Mr. Santos, Mr. Gorman. Good to see you all, and welcome to everybody else. This got a little funny feedback, but anyways, it's great to be here. Happy New Year, everyone. We all made it through the holidays, and unlike some of my other presentations, most of my presentations usually have the kids in front of us, and they're usually singing a song to bring in some happy cheer and so forth. But this time I decided instead to get a little bit more serious. At our school, it may be that we sometimes think it's just a school of fun, but it is where the foundation begins for all of our students here in Mashpee Public Schools. And I take that very, very seriously. Tonight I'm going to be presenting some information about the Wilson Foundation's program. Wilson is part of our literacy program. It's one of the core components of our literacy program at Coombs this year. And it was added, and it had a large budget impact on the school this year. And I'm going to share why we decided to bring this into the school and some of the components of it to help people understand what we are doing there and what I know will eventually bring our students so that they are getting a much stronger foundation and will be successful in their future careers in the schools and then in life as well. So with that, I'm going to start with just a little video to let you see what it looks like being taught. The video that you're seeing is a video that was taken of Mrs. Dugas, our assistant principal, and Ms. Daly. They both, in the course of this year, are being trained as facilitators so that in future years we will be able to train the teachers, the new teachers that may be coming on board. We felt that that was a very important part of making sure that we could have ongoing professional development and discussions of the program. They take videos and have coaches come and view these videos as well as lead the teachers in professional development throughout this year. So you'll actually see them teaching some of the classes for some of our first and second grade students. So let's go ahead and start that up.
Okay, so today for our foundations lesson, these are the segments that we're going to do. We're going to do a drill sound warm-up. That's what we're going to start with, like we usually do. And I'm going to introduce a new concept to you. We're going to do some word talk. And then we're going to do a dictation checkup. TH, thumb. TH, thumb. A-N-K, make, ink. A-N-K, make, ink. A-N-G, bang, egg. A-N-G, bang, egg. I-L-D, wild, ild. I-L-D, wild, ild. U-N-K, junk, unk. U-N-K, junk, unk. E-N-N. A, apple, A. A, apple, A. S-H, shoosh. S-H, shoosh. C-K, sock. C-K, sock. T-H, right? There are three sounds, they're glued together, so we tap with our three fingers together, right? Let's try just long one more time. Let's tap the base word. And let's read the base word. And the whole word. Very nice. And let's spell it back.
Go back to the PowerPoint. So what you saw there was just snippets of one lesson in the course of a day. A typical foundations lesson, which is done daily, takes approximately 30 minutes, 30 to 40 minutes, and there's different components that go on there. What happens in the course of that lesson is, let's see if this is going to work. You're going to have to move it for us, Ms. Dugas. I think I got it. There we go. What happens in the course of that lesson, you saw some different things, different components in those videos. One portion is a handwriting component, and they wanted to make sure that it is taught in a way that's multisensory. So when children are extending their arms out in a straight sort of thing, there's a whole body movement that is going on there, and it carries more to the brain. This has been a very research-based program, making sure that modalities and multisensory sorts of things are there, very explicitly taught. They, in addition to that, have a handwriting component that goes along with it to make sure that writing is done fluently. And some of those things seem to be gone nowadays. It seemed pretty maybe back to the basic sorts of things. But we sometimes have been rushing through. What we have found is not just at this school, but elsewhere throughout the country, we've been rushing through some of those fundamental sorts of things. And in fact, the national reading panel that was done in the year 2000 said that we really needed to make sure that we had all of the components that were in this program, and so we feel more certain with this program that we've got those. So it is research-based. It provides explicit instruction. It's very systematic, the way they are going about it. Multisensory, I've spoken about. It's repetitive. We do learn through repetition. And we all know that the more you hear something, the more you're going to remember it. And throughout the program, there's many, many opportunities for teachers to provide feedback to the students. But the big question is not only what does it do, but why did we make the decision to move there? I'm going to go back, to this slide. This was a very database decision that was made at our school. This slide shows our DIBELS data for the past 3 years. And it's interesting to note, if you'll note down here, this group here, 2013-14, if we looked at that score, that is the number of students that were at our school as a whole. Now this is an aggregate of the whole school, and this is the end of the year data. This score here almost exactly correlates with the percentage of students that were at grade 3 and who were proficient and advanced on the PARCC last year. And each one of these scores, we can see year after year that we really are not getting enough kids into the core area. And with that in mind, we needed to make some changes, and this is a drastic change. So what does it teach? Well, the National Reading Panel says that there are 5 major areas of reading that all students must be taught in order to become better readers. This is one component of our whole school program, and it emphasizes some points more than others. But particularly, phonological awareness is a key component that must be taught. It is at the very youngest of ages that we teach that in our preschool and kindergarten. It's helping students learn that a sentence is separated into words, that words are into syllables. I don't know how many of you have sat in a classroom where somebody's speaking another language. Now I want you to think for just a minute, if this was all being taught in Spanish, you would not know where words begin and end. You would not be able to segment the sounds of them. Our children are young. They have learned to hear and speak language, but now they have to break that down into the little symbols that are there, the letters. And we need to slow down what we've said and let them start hearing it so that then they can decode and encode, which would be putting it back together again. So that's what this is doing when they're first starting their reading. That phonological awareness is a key component. It also gets worked on in the preschool as well as the kindergarten. The alphabetical principle is mapping those sounds to the letters and then linking those letter names and formations to explicit handwriting and spelling. Another key component that the National Reading Panel said was phonics. Phonics, many people think that phonological awareness and phonics are one and the same, but now we're linking that letter to the sound and the sound to the letter more explicitly. Vocabulary, you heard it in there when they were just doing quick. It's a National Reading Panel must-have. When they were go fast, what is quick? We hear those words, but to see them in print and then put them into action in our minds is a whole different strategy that needs to be done. It teaches high-frequency words, fluency, comprehension. The comprehension in this program is not a whole lot of comprehension, so it is tied with other reading components. This is not a standalone program. They still need to be reading top quality literature, and they are doing that. Handwriting is taught. Spelling is taught right along with the decoding. They encode at the same time, which is spelling. And because they're writing sentences, they're taught specifically sentence structure, how to proofread, and how to punctuate and capitalize their letters. So with that kind of gives you an overview of the program, what we've put together there, and I have also some materials here that I'm going to leave out for people if they want to look at them, because I'll be taking them away tomorrow, if that's okay with Principal O'Brien, and we'll go ahead and leave those out so that people can look and see what the programs look like after the meeting. Thank you very much, and are there any questions?
I do have one.
Yes.
So you're looking at the third graders. Is it the third graders you're looking at with their park scores and then matching it up to how they may have performed after they left Coombs?
Well, what happens is we obviously are the foundation, and if the foundation isn't strong enough, we're not going to have as good a scores there. And what I've seen is that our end of the year Dibble scores are very, very closely tied to what our third and fourth grade MCAS and park scores are. If you looked at the park scores that Principal O'Brien had given to us last meeting, she had that in third grade, 54% were at level 4 and 5. And in fact, if you looked at the slide that I had there in regards to that, it said that particular group, there were 56%. As at our school of kids that were coming over, there were 56% that were at there. So that's pretty darn close. I don't think you can get much closer when you think about one or two kids might have moved in or moved out.
That was my next follow-up. There can't be very many that are missed based on moving in and moving out.
We have got to do a better job to make sure that they're ready for that next level.
Thank you.
So, is this going to be applied to all of the grades, or just what grades are you going to apply?
We have it in K1 and 2, all grades.
So all grades?
Yes. And there is a preschool component. Right now, I am not prepared to bring in the preschool. They have just put it out. I would like to see a little bit further, and I feel that we have a pretty strong preschool phonological awareness component coming along.
And when do you expect to be able to assess the results of putting this in?
Typically, when a new program is brought in, there can be a slight implementation, this bump or fall, you know. Because this is so different, I would expect that there might be a slight fall in our Dibble scores, but then I would see it going up, maybe not this year, but next year when teachers are more, it's more ingrained into the system, they've got it down a little bit, because they are learning as they're teaching as well. So I would like to see a real increase in our Dibble scores is how I will keep track of it.
Okay.
At the end of next year, hopefully this year, but I'm not going to promise anything, but I would certainly hope that by next year we should be seeing it.
All right. Hopefully you can give the committee an update next year.
Absolutely. I'll give
Specifically on
them
this
a update, you know, at the end, at any time that date is always available to you.
Are there any other schools on the Cape that are doing this program?
Schools on the Cape doing it, do you know, Ms. Dugas, if there are other schools that are doing it?
I do know at one time Cape Cod Academy was utilizing it. I don't know of any other schools that are using it at this time, but there may be schools that are using it. I do know that there are many schools in Massachusetts that are using it in some very top performing school districts.
Okay, thank you.
We also did bring here tonight with us, besides all of this is a second grade kit, if you wanted to look at any materials, but we also did bring with us an overview of studies that have been done on the Foundations program. We didn't have it to put in your packet, so I don't know if you want us to submit that in the next packet, or we brought it here for you tonight, a copy, if you guys would like to take a look at it. And also how Foundations matches up with a core reading program, how they work in conjunction with each other to bring out an effective literacy program for everyone.
That's fantastic. Is that either of those available digitally, or
I do have them digitally.
maybe you could pass them along to Patty and then we could spend some time reading it?
Absolutely. Or you can take one tonight and read it as well.
Very good.
I have a question for you. Do you know how long this program's been around?
Foundations?
Yes.
Foundations, in 2000 or 2001,
Okay.
it was piloted.
Yeah, I was
And
just
it
kinda-
has gone through, this is its second revised edition. We have the most current edition of it.
Okay, so it's been around a while. I was gonna say, because like you said, it seems like it is getting back to basics. I remember when I went to school once upon a time.
It is.
You know, we did a lot more of the phonetical awareness and all that, a lot more sounding out. And I noticed that the schools were going more towards weighing heavily on sight words and just, you know, word recognition rather than sounding things out and that kind of stuff. So it's good to see, you know, a little more push back into the, you know, this side of things.
And
One of the wonderful things about it is that the students are learning about the structure of the English language. They're learning total word structure. They're taught these 6 syllable types. And once you know these 6 syllable types, you're virtually able to read, spell, and write any word that there is in the English language. So it has been very well researched by Barbara Wilson, who worked with Dr. Samuel Orton, and a lot of expertise has gone into the development of Foundations. And so it is research-based, and one of the most effective ways that we can ensure that we're reaching most of our students. You know, it's so many different modalities, and it's really an explicit teaching. So the students are practicing correct formation of letters. They're practicing spelling words correctly. So, because you don't want them to be getting it into their brains incorrectly. So it's really well thought out, and there's a lot of research on it, and I'm happy to share anything that I have with any of you from the Foundation's research that's been done.
Thank you.
Ms. Dugas was trained in foundations prior to being here and has had extensive training in it, which was, so she does have a lot more information even than I do. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. The next item on the agenda is approval of the FY17 budget. We also have the Mr. Funk here, and who would like to start? Mr. Funk,
Sure.
please.
At the previous meeting, we had come in with a budget of $21,095,451. And as we got further into the year, we got better numbers, and we were able to reduce this and meet the guidelines of the town manager by reducing it to, and this was a vote at the last meeting, $20,841,556, which is a 1.83% increase. Most of it coming in projections that we had to do, the superintendent Hyde and I had to do to get this budget down at Town Hall on October 16th. As we progress throughout the year and get into December, we get much better numbers. So that's the reason for the reduction. If there are no further questions, there is a vote needed on this budget that will then be sent down to the town manager.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Are we able to continue in good faith with negotiations with Unit A, with this budget?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else?
So, pardon me. We'll talk a little bit later, I think I don't see it on here. In regard to work so far that we've been doing in regard to looking at potential options in regard to our summer school programs. Is on,
Right, I think, is that
oh, it's
on
under new
the
business?
agenda?
Oh, it's under new business.
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is that okay?
Well, my question is in regard to the budget, though. So, in the budget right now, what is in here is based upon the similar type of program that we have done as of last year, correct?
That is correct, and that is paid basically through the IDEA grant,
Okay,
okay, and that's where the funding comes for that summer program.
okay. So basically, it's
It's
zero funding for
Right
our
now,
summer school
right,
program is
right.
included in the FY17 budget.
That is correct, that is
Okay,
correct.
oh,
Yep,
okay.
yep, I'm all right with that.
Okay, I didn't, I'll save the rest of that discussion on the summer school
Okay.
program for later then. Double check, make sure I didn't have any other questions. And in the budget for 17, right now, we have projected 19 out-of-district students, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
I think I don't know if I went through how, we know that there's gonna be 19 out there.
There's 19 known.
Known, and then
Right.
we take into consideration, not all of the maybes, but I sit down with the sped director, and we do put funds in there
Okay,
for possible students that will go out.
okay,
And as this year, we started off with 17, we're at 19 now, and there may be one or two more coming down.
okay. So you think the budget is adequate
Absolutely.
in regard to anticipated
Absolutely.
increases potentially in
Absolutely.
out-of-district?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
If there are no further questions, Mr. Chairman, I need a vote on this budget.
Anyone have any more further questions? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion. You're abstaining? I'll make a motion that we approve the FY17 budget at $20,841,556.
Second?
We have a second by Mr. Santos. Any discussion?
I would request that Mr. Funk make available for the public, if they want it, any of the responses to questions that have been submitted to you.
Absolutely.
In regard to the budget, so if people want to have insight or similar insight, that the school committee members or anyone else who has asked
Absolutely.
in regard to the budget, that they have that available to them also.
Absolutely, no problems.
All right, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call for Mr. Santos.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes. Budget's approved, Mr. Funk, and we'll pass along to Town Hall. Appreciate it.
abstain.
Abstain, Mr. Gorman, I apologize.
No problem.
Next item on the agenda would be report, next item on the agenda is approval of December 16th, 2015 minutes. Will entertain a motion for that?
I move to approve the December 16th, 2015 minutes as written.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes.
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 Yes. Minutes are approved. Next item would be report of the superintendent. We have Acting Superintendent Patricia DeBoer, please.
I would just like to share a quick note that we received from the superintendent of schools where St. Bernard's is, and it was a handwritten note. Dear Mr. DeBoer, please accept congratulations on Mashpee High School's success in the state championship game at Gillette Stadium. Coaches, athletes, and fans represented Mashpee with distinction. Sincerely, Dalma Josephson, Superintendent. So I thought that was a very nice note. And one other quick question to answer related to a previous question from Mr. Myers. There are 69 ELL students in the district. 43 receive direct services and 24 are considered monitors.
Okay. Thank you.
Then we have the report of Principal Lithwin from the Kenneth C. Coombs School, and I would like to thank her as well as Assistant Principal Dugas for doing a very informative and enjoyable presentation tonight. There's 446 students currently as of December at the Coombs School. Acknowledgements include a heartfelt appreciation to Coombs School PTO, staff, families, and community members for their outpouring of support for another outstanding Giving Tree event. 65 families and 126 children were helped. Thank you to Margie Mitchell for organizing the Winter Wonderland Walk. Thank you to MHS teacher Andy Troyanos and MHS, he's the music teacher and chorus teacher, Liesel Keller, for performing for the Coombs students. They brought a great group of students and musicians down. And thank you to Katie Martin for organizing the visit from the U.S. Coast Guard. Upcoming events for tomorrow night, is the kindergarten pajama night, and a joint happening for both the Coombs and Quashnet schools, a parent information session, technology in the classroom, and it's going to be held at this school, but it's combined. And then there's a couple of field trips coming up in January for grade 1 to the Katuitt Center for the Arts. Would you like to add anything, Mrs. Lithwin?
Just to plug in there for the parent info session is from 6:30 until 8 o'clock here. And we hope that lots of parents will come. It will be not only informative, but also interactive.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the Quashnet School report from Principal O'Brien. There's 505 students as of her December report. She would like to thank Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Vaccaro, Mrs. Restalis, Mrs. Blunt, Mrs. Hill, and Ms. Sherman, Mrs. Emery, and Mrs. McHugh for their time coordinating and planning the Quashnet Christmas Parade. And thank you to the Quashnet K Kids and Chorus for representing the Quashnet School very well. Congratulations to the Falcon 5 recipients for being outstanding Quashnet citizens and always following the Falcon 5. They are recognized by peers and teachers. Grade 3 is Jordan Fernandez, grade 4 is Keelan Frazier, grade 5 is Maya Brainson and Jocelyn Cohen, and grade 6 is Celeste Bold. I believe those are done by term. Is that correct, Mrs. O'Brien? They're done by term?
By term.
Okay, that was first term. Outstanding performance was given on Thursday, December 17th by the talented grade 4 through 6 chorus members, directed by Ms. Sherman and Mrs. Hill. And thank you to Mr. Gus Stickley for creating delicious gingerbread cookies and all the other staff members who supported this event. And there was a cookie decorating activity that happened after the concert. It was very, very well attended. And Mrs. O'Brien is very proud to share great feedback from the New Bedford Whaling Museum that Quashnet School third graders were extremely well behaved, interested in the lessons, and well prepared for their visit. Thank you, students and teachers, for representing not only Quashnet, but also the Mashpee community. Upcoming events that were included on Mrs. O'Brien's report: Indian Education Parent Meeting. That's a district-wide meeting that is next Tuesday evening at 6:30 at the Mashpee Middle School, High School. There's a winter instrumental concert on the 12th as well here at the Quashnet School. And the National Elementary Honor Society induction is on the 28th of January at 5:30. So hopefully if you're able to make any of those events, you should come. Anything you'd like to add, Mrs. O'Brien?
No, that's good, thank you.
Then we have Principal Balistracci's report for the Mashpee Middle High School. He has 713 students there. Acknowledgements on his report. Congratulations to Mashpee Middle High School students, staff, and families for achieving a level 2 rating. Yes. Amazing to see what we can all do when we work together. Thank you to Mr. and Mrs. Troyanos, Miss Keller, and Miss Deschamps for hosting a wonderful art and music night on December 9th. And it was great to see the entire student works displayed, and the band and chorus performed wonderfully. If you weren't able to make that event, I assume it's going to become an annual tradition. It was really outstanding. You should make sure you go. Congratulations again to our high school football team for winning the Division 6 state championship. I know we had a meeting after they won, but technically those are December things we want to highlight. Congratulations to Deshaun Diaz for receiving the Boston Globe and Boston Herald Division 6 Football Player of the Year. Congratulations to Coach Matt Treveri for receiving the Boston Herald Division 6 Coach of the Year and the New England Patriots Coach of the Year. We are very proud of their accomplishments. And then thank you to Colleen Terrell and Susie Brooks, who are our Associate Directors of Instructional Technology. They hosted a successful technology evening on December 8th for MMHS families in the library, and it was a great opportunity for learning and also hands-on. I do want to quickly list the High Five winners. It's important that I think their names are heard. In grade 7, Caroline Raber, Jersey Brown, Jessica Rulo, Isabella Falor, Erica Austin, and Shivani Patel. Grade 8, Erin Mackey, Phoebe Cohen, Sonia Helwig, Madeline Souza, Stella Bold, Julie Cambra. They each receive it in a different subject area. Grade 9, Nicholas Story. He actually got 2, social studies and math. Aiden Gaddu, Michaela Gallagher, Adam Henschel, and Nicholas Story. Must have got another one in a foreign language. That was a good month for him. Grade 10 was Molly Ryan, Sydney Costa, Rachel Barrows, Robert Nasuti, Brooke Bridges, and Adriana Briggs Mitrakastas. In grade 11, Andrew Roberts, Tana O'Brien, Alex Franklin, Ryan Wheeler, Jashin Chopra, and Christopher Curtin. And in grade 12, Rachel Gutman, Abby Treemarsh, Rachel Gutman again, Miranda Davis, Gabrielle Carroll, and Brenda Price. And I think that's an important recognition for those students for working hard in that subject area. Upcoming events for the middle school, high school: January 14th, all band night. January 24th is an all choral night. And then midterm exams take place on January 22nd, 25th, 26th, 27th, and 29th. Oh no, 27th. 29th is when the term ends. So I know these are bigger bodies and bigger students, but they should go to bed early when they have midterms. Parents should help.
I just have two brief things before we move on.
Sure.
I've had people ask me about park REMCAS testing, and they'll be going away in March. Have letters been sent out, or will they be sent out, letting people know when they will be taken?
Yes, yes, would you like to address that, Mr. Balstrand?
Yes, I can address that, Mr. Chair.
Please.
Members of the committee. Our dates are going to go out at the end of this week, and because it's one administration of the test this year instead of two. Last year was a middle of the year and then end of year. This year, the window opens April 25th through June 6th. So all the schools that are doing park in our district can choose within that time frame when they'd like to do it. The middle school, 7th and 8th grade, which are the only ones in our building taking park, will be doing so in the first 2 weeks of May.
Thank you. The reason I ask, maybe I've already mentioned this, but there are people that want vacations or whatever they're doing. The other portion was probably for Mr. Balistracci as well. It looks like there's one item or one student that I believe it says dropped off roll. Is that correct? Is that a dropout?
Correct.
I know you're doing the best to try and get that student back, but it always hurts everyone's, when you see someone drop out. So we appreciate it, and I that's all I have.
I was just going to have Principal O'Brien share about her park testing.
The park dates for Quashnet School were sent out this last Sunday as part of the Quashnet blog, and we will be testing that first full week in May 9th and May 23rd. In our MCAS for 5th grade will be the 18th and 19th of May.
Thank you.
So those will all be on the district calendar, but I also encourage all families to only take vacations during school vacation time. So hopefully that will be, because it is a little bit difficult to work around that. Was there anything else, Principal Balistracci, that you wanted to add?
There is, on January 19th, we have moved our program of studies open house to January 19th from originally scheduled for February 4th. An email was sent out to all the community today initially, and there'll be 2 more to follow up this week and early next week. And that's an opportunity for community members. Specifically, we're targeting grade 6 families and grade 8 families to look and see the innovative programs that we offer. We'll be able to meet with our teachers, our administration, our guidance staff, et cetera, and kind of get a better feel for what they're going to be coming into in the future.
Thank you. We have the report of Special Ed Director Michelle Brady, who was out sick today. It shows 333 students currently on active IEPs, and then it lists different activities that she's been involved in and contributed to. There's the report from the Athletic Director, Matt Treveri, and to highlight, we're early on in the season. We're having some success on many of the teams, and hopefully beyond the success of the wins is the positive experience that students are having. So that is the overall goal. There are some new winter coaches hired. Mark Doucette is indoor track. Dan Ionetti is for the JV boys basketball. Mike Patz is the freshman boys basketball, and Christina DeLamba is the middle school girls basketball. Of all of those 4 people, Christina DeLamba is a paraprofessional at the high school. I believe the other 3 are outside of the district hires. For the personnel summary, we have a new paraprofessional, Larissa Slagle, at the Coombs School. She actually was hired to replace a paraprofessional who resigned, a newly hired one who didn't stay too long. So it's not a new position, it's a replacement. And then also Mary Kate O'Brien has been named principal of the Quashnet School. The interim part of her title has been removed.
Congratulations.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
The enrollment sheet is next in the packet. It shows what I already said, which was 446 for Coombs School, 505 students at Quashnet, 277 at Mashpee Middle School, 436 at Mashpee High School, for a total of 1664. And then it also lists the out-of-district Cape Cod Tech students, although that doesn't add up. So 1664.
Can I just ask a quick question? How many school choice is included in that?
Oh, our current school choice. Current school choice are 64 students. That was as of today.
Out of how
And
many?
they are in those numbers.
Oh, right. Out of how many slots?
So the slots, once the student becomes school choice and chooses to stay, there can be additional slots each year. So it's a little bit hard to track. But what I have is based on our April 2015 listing of slots, we listed 5 seats in kindergarten and we only have 1 choice student.
Okay, so we have 4 open there?
Right, but in grade 1, there were 5 seats listed as available in April, but we have 5. But the thing is, they keep moving up. So, for example, if I looked at grade 2, when we did our April listing, we said there were no seats open, but we have 7 choice students in there.
Yeah, but
Because they
that's
keep
carried
staying.
over.
So each year we'll assess and see how many more to add, basically is what you're
Right,
doing.
but based on the number that we had available as of last year, how many do we have?
Okay, so we would have 4 seats in kindergarten,
Yeah.
no seats in first. We have nothing available in second. 3rd grade, there were 10 seats open, we have 6 choice kids.
Okay, so we have 4 in
Yeah,
third.
grade 4, there were 10 seats open in April, we only have 2 choice kids there, so there's 8 spots.
Oh,
No spots in grade 5, no spots in grade 6. Grade 7, no spots. Grade 8, we had 10 seats open, we only have 2 choice kids
so we have 6
in grade
open.
8. Grade 9, we said there were 5 seats, we currently have 6 kids. But those 6, we could have had 5 in addition. Like, unless
Yes.
they were new ones.
Yeah.
I'd have to tell you when they came in.
Right.
Anyway, grade 11, 5 seats were open, we have 3 there. And we don't really, I know this letter, and there was some question about this, we don't really have choice as an option for an incoming senior, but there are choice students who are seniors because they've worked their way up. So
Right.
there's 5 seats and there's 6 choice kids.
Okay, thank you.
It's a little confusing.
So there were no choice students that applied, that enrolled this year, they were just left over, but they moved up from 11th. Is that correct?
Let's see when they came in board. Of our 12th graders, let's see, what's that date? Okay, they began with us, there's one here listed as an FY15,
I see. So,
but the rest were earlier.
they stayed with us.
They've all been with us.
Okay. All right, thank you. That helps give me a perspective of how our school choice program is working and where we're attracting people. So that's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. So next is the second read of the bully intervention and prevention plan that we introduced at the last meeting. And just as a recap in terms of our previous year's plan, we updated it responding to allegations of bullying by school staff. These are all new requirements by DESE. We updated the definition of aggressor to include a member of the school staff. There's a new section which refers families to DESE's problems resolution system. Anywhere that we referenced categories of students, we made sure it was updated to include what is considered all protected categories now. We included the administration of a DESE student survey that accesses school climate and the prevalence, nature, and severity of bullying. That does not take effect till the 15-16 school year. And then just a reminder that the KCC incident form that is still shown with that packet will not be part of the plan. None of the actual forms that the schools use are part of it.
Well, I apologize if I'm asking an obvious question, but is this posted on the website, the existing?
The existing one is on the website.
And obviously, parents are made aware by principals and through the handbook. How are they made aware?
Sections of it are included in the handbooks, and there's also references and links to the entire plan that shows on the website.
And faculty is obviously aware, and how are they made aware? They're a similar way?
Faculty is made aware at the beginning of the year. I also, once it's approved, will have to go to each school for a brief staff meeting to update them on the changes. That's a requirement.
Do you see a lot of, do the principals and yourself see a lot of these reports or applications actually filled out? That's the, question. I'm not looking for specific numbers, but are people utilizing this plan?
People do utilize the plan. What happens is that once you start an investigation or start having conversations with those involved, it doesn't end up being considered bullying. And there are data sheets used to collect all the information on the students.
Usually it's a repetitive,
It
consistent.
has to be that repetitive, intentional desire to harm a specific person or target.
And so you're looking for a vote to approve the second read and to approve overall, is that correct?
The update, yeah.
We'll entertain that from the committee.
I move to approve the bullying prevention and intervention plan on the second read.
Second?
Second by Mr. Gorman, do we have any discussion?
So, of course I have discussion. Why is it? Huh?
That's what you're here for, don't?
Oh, I know. Extend the meeting so it won't go too fast. Right, that's my goal in life. In the policy, in several places, it denotes the ability to report anonymously, correct? And I'm presuming that that's based upon concerns in regard to potential retaliation. So, the reference, and I just want to make sure I'm pointing it out correctly. So the reference to report anonymously, is that on page, well, I guess I'm asking, is if I was tired of Chris bullying me and I wanted to report him anonymously, am I on page 12? Is it clear, I guess, that people would know how to do that? And it wasn't clear to me, but if you can help me, I would appreciate it.
Well, I'm trying to think, in most situations that school administrators deal with, the anonymity piece isn't there, but the protection of the rights of students is there in terms of protecting them. We have not had too many situations of it being more of an adult concern and a desire to be anonymous. At some point, I think someone has to be willing to, put a name to their concerns. So I can't really speak to within our district, how would we handle anonymity? So I don't have a good
I'll
answer
have to find
for
it, but
that.
it's definitely in here.
That
It does
they're allowed
say,
to.
it does
Yes.
reference, there's an outside source to report it to.
Well, they have, yeah, so they
On
have
page
the,
12.
Oh, okay, so there's,
But it's not clear to me, because
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of buried under problem resolution.
well, that's one of the newest sections to this plan that DESI has put, guiding everybody to this problem-solving section of their site. They've created, I haven't actually gone there to see what the steps would be involved, but maybe that is where you have the opportunity to register. It's the problem resolution system,
Okay,
but I don't see the anonymity part in that section.
right.
remember
So I think, to me, we talk about it being available, but there's not a mechanism to actually instruct them how to do that?
So you're saying that maybe we should try to put some kind of language under 9 that talks about anonymity, that this is, would be your source?
Yeah, who would I contact?
You can also put in a form without your name on it, correct? Like send it to the school
You
district?
can put a form, you can put it in on the form. I can check with some of the other districts. Our plan is very similar to other districts that have recently approved theirs, wording-wise and also through DESI's recommendations, so, but we can find out, more of a specific for that and make sure it's communicated to, the community.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it should be part of the policy, so,
I thought I seen it spelled out in here. I can't seem to find it now.
Well, it says on the report itself that reports may be made anonymously,
No, that's not what I
so maybe you don't put your name on that?
I mean, this is pretty much boilerplate
right.
Definitely.
from DESI.
It does mention on page 9 that both reporting by faculty and staff and reporting by students, parents, guardians, and others can be anonymous. So, but I understand you're trying to say what the mechanism is besides just not putting your name on the form?
Right.
I don't think we would be breaking any code by adding a line as John is suggesting, and number 9, would that be inappropriate? To say that something to the effect of people who are concerned about their identity being revealed could do, use this method under section 9.
Yeah, so this implies that if a family, or it could even be, I assume, a student, is uncomfortable with seeking assistance within the district, they can seek their assistance through this system that's now in place. We could emphasize, if you have a desire to stay anonymous or want that sort of level of protection, you could go through.
Go through that
Yes.
mechanism.
You could add a sentence or two there.
Okay. I think that would be
Okay.
a helpful clarification. That was my value add.
Value added. Don is value added.
Appreciate you, Don.
Much appreciated.
All right, I can do that.
And so we would entertain the motion to amend with Don's suggestion to approve on a second read. Would that be acceptable to everyone? I think Don made the motion, I believe, and
I did.
Chris made the motion. Maybe we can make an amendment to.
All right.
Your
Amend the
motion?
motion to approve the, where are we here?
Make a motion to amend your motion.
Make a motion to amend the motion to approve the bullying prevention and intervention plan with the alterations that were recommended by Mr. Myers.
I will second that.
There's a second by Mr. Myers. Do we have a further discussion? Hearing none, we will roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes?
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is new business, which would be update. Thank you for your report, by the way. Next item on the agenda is new business, update on summer school program.
You want to do that?
Sure. So we, Mr. Myers and Special Education Director Michelle Brady and myself met, I believe it was December 14th, 18th, to sort of see if we could revise the current offerings during the summer to target not just special ed students who are identified to have a drop in their skills when they are away from school, but also to provide a little bit more of a program for students who are not on an IEP, but are not where we want them to be at the end of a school year. They're slightly below their grade level. We have different assessments to use to determine that. So it's sort of broadening what we would be providing in a summer school program, in addition to what we provide for the special ed students. So we talked about different scenarios. And we sort of ended up at one point with 4 different options. And Michelle Brady did a great job of pricing them out because it would be a substantial increase in teachers and support personnel. It also results in a slight increase in the special ed budget in terms of making sure we offer more to them as well so that their experience is similar to those of the general ed students who would be participating. And I think what Mr. Myers' idea was going into this summer, which is the summer of 16, the special education grant will cover the special education summer school as we usually do it. We're going to do, or we'd like to do, a parent survey to get a feel for one of the scenarios we've come up with. Which one would they most like, and could they provide, would they be able to get their child here? Would they be even interested in it? And then once we have a little bit more data to support that, then we would start to explore options for funding. And I believe that however we sort of craft it for this year, moving into the FY18 budget, which would take care of the summer of 17, we would have incorporated funding for this broader program that we hope would attract quite a few students. We have, a good number, as you could tell from Principal Lithwin's presentation. If we had that program in place at the end of a given year, and she has, so if you have 54% are where we want them to be, you have 46 who aren't, we would love to be able to offer all of those students a way to catch themselves up a little bit. So that's the idea behind it. We'll be meeting again very soon, and we'll be also crafting the survey to go out to the families so we can gather their input and what would work for them. Would you like to add anything, Mr. Ryan?
No, I think we had productive discussion. I appreciate the work that has been done. I think we've got more work to do. I think this, is another opportunity for the school to provide services to the kids, to the parents, in order to help maximize their potential. And I look back to the success that we've had with our preschool program, which has been wonderfully accepted, and we'll start to actually be able to see some test results coming up here as those kids move into the appropriate grades. And I look at this as another opportunity for us, to provide those kids with a chance to catch up if they're behind, and make it universally available. We do have a summer school program right now that addresses those students who are on IEPs, I believe it's the restriction. But the target of that is to prevent regression during the summer break, and it's a relatively very short program that meets a couple hours a day for a few weeks. We're looking at, as Mr. DeBoer mentioned, at how can we expand that to actually create a progressive program so that the kids come out of this ahead of where they would have normally been, so that they have a leap ahead when they're entering into the school program in August or September. So I know we've got more numbers to crunch. We've got more questions. We need, obviously, to get feedback from the public. So once we've kind of refined what we think the programs might look like, we are going to do a survey. And I would implore people to take an opportunity to express their opinion, either through the survey or through contacting Ms. DeBoer. and letting her know, or Miss Brady let her know, or even myself or the committee, what you think. I think this is worthwhile. I think this is a solid investment, a potential solid investment that the town makes in expanding our services and in our kids. So I think this is good, and I look forward to the next meeting and be able to come back with more refined proposal for the committee to chew on. So thank you.
That's fantastic.
And if I could just add, we were looking at it being a K-8 program. The current high school program for summer school would not be altered or not be included in this. They already have that functioning well.
I don't know if you had thought about it, Don or Patty, about, maybe students or families that are interested in, that may be interested in just having additional work in a certain core subject. They wanted to refine their math skills or that kind of thing. Someone that's not an IEP or, that's years out maybe, but.
Well, this is open to any student, so
Okay.
it's not.
I see.
We have a program right now that addresses IEP, so it's looking at potentially expanding that program for those kids, but also making it available for any kid. So if you're struggling in math, there's an opportunity for you to have a structured program that you can go to. There's structured programs for English, etc., so that you can work on your deficiencies and be able to catch up, because we all know how hard it is when you get to that next grade. If you haven't mastered where you need to be, everybody else is moving ahead and you're struggling to keep up. And so this is an opportunity, I hope, for those kids to narrow that gap and, as I said, maximize their potential. So, great question.
It's a great idea and a great program, and all good. The funding. The funding is the biggest thing.
I think this would be innovative, because I don't believe anybody else is doing this, at least on the Cape.
Absolutely.
And I will say Mr. Myers was trying to be as creative as possible when he was contemplating an air conditioning, resolving the need for coolness if it's in this building.
I got it. It's already here. We just need to flip the seasons and we're good. But since we have a couple selectmen in the audience, maybe they'll hear that message and think about it as we work on capital programs for next year, that we still need that to be addressed.
It's sweltering. The word is sweltering.
Sweltering.
Now, I don't want to jump the gun or anything, but have you discussed whether or not how this selection process, or how to determine who would be eligible for it? Would it be at a recommendation from the teacher? Would it be an application process, or?
It would come down to the data that we collect at the end of the year, particularly with the STAR data now. If a student, and we were able to look at their baseline, mid-year, and end, didn't make the progress and are still below what they should be at their grade level, they would be offered that.
Okay.
And even with all of the students on IEPs, in the past, the determination was, data was collected that showed that there would be a drop in their sort of readiness or skill level after vacation, like they would monitor that way. And so not everyone on an IEP was always offered an extended school year program. But the idea, and even when you do offer a lot, I think what Mrs. Brady had said this past year, I think 90 families were eligible, and about 45 actually, took them up on that. So I'm sure we would be making the offer to far more than would choose to come. But I have, when I was principal, I often had parents whose students were not on an IEP who wanted extra summer help. And because the program was always funded through a special ed grant, it was always a challenge to kind of slide them in there without them, we try to take care of what their needs are, but not easy.
Great, thanks, appreciate it.
Unless there's anything further, we'll move on to specifically unassigned and unfinished business. This is an update on the data quest investigation and its Superintendent Brian Hyde's home visit of September 29th. Late last evening, or late yesterday afternoon, I received the full and final report from the investigator. We will have to have it redacted. There is student privacy issues that have to be addressed. There may be some personnel issues that may have to be addressed, or personnel records issues that may have to be addressed. So that may take a few days to even have that addressed with the redaction. Some of the questions surrounding this, I'm sure, are, why did the committee take a report that was unfinished and took a draft report halfway through the process? And I think some of the reasons that the committee was concerned about as the governing body was about, the composure of the superintendent, was he intimidating staff, was he intimidating any faculty, or was he in any way acting in a way that we should take action on immediately? We did not, I don't think we actually found anything that we could make any actionable steps at that time. So I think that was a good idea, although it does look a little unprofessional and a little, half-hearted. But now we do have a full and final report. It's very detailed. I'm the only person that has read the entire report, but I don't believe that we will need a vote to release it. And as soon as I get the redacted version back from our legal counsel, I will also ask about whether we need to vote to have it released, but I would like to release it as soon as possible. And I've instructed the attorney to tell me reasons that the committee would not be able to release it as soon as possible. So we will find out what the reaction is from the attorney, and I can't reiterate any further that I would love to have this released as soon as possible. Now, the Pacey investigation can be frustrating and has been frustrating for me, and I'm sure the committee members and the entire public. And this is not a typical situation. It's not as if the persons involved in this situation are compelled to speak to the investigator commissioned by this committee. They are in no way compelled. All the persons have employment, family, other obligations, and they also have, in some cases, attorney advice. And a lot of those issues were contributing factors to slowing down this investigation. If there is frustration and angst and fury about the pace of the investigation, I wouldn't take it out on the investigator. I wouldn't take it out on any of the private citizens. I wouldn't take it out on any of the public officials. The public officials, matter of fact, were very, in my opinion, brisk with responding. There was a little glitch in communication with the police department, and I always believed that the police department would participate in a full and forthright manner. They did do so. That communication issue was resolved thanks to a particular member of this committee who made some phone calls, and I think it was just a communication issue. And I'm glad that those members have contributed, and the faculty in this school system contributed. So, if anyone wants to take umbrage with the pace of this report, I would hope they would take it upon me. I don't think that my personal opinion is that this committee or any school department should be forceful with private citizens about asking them to compel to this investigation. I think we should hire an investigator that's going to be cordial with the private citizens, and student for that matter. They all the persons are related, all the persons within this investigation are Mashpee residents except for one. I think it's a poor idea for this committee to, once again, forcefully, ask these persons to participate. So I was working with the investigator, and I said several times, work at a pace where you're not going to scare away anyone, where you're not going to intimidate anyone, where you're not going to upset anyone's sensibilities, and just make sure that you get the report to us before any criminal court process is completed. And I think that we obviously took some time doing that. We did take some time even finding an investigator. We found an investigator that is off Cape, so we are going to also have to pay for mileage, including travel time to and from the Cape, and mileage, which is, 57 cents a mile, 56 cents a mile. We were also have to pay for the time spent actually sitting with the during the interview with the subjects. And I will be receiving an invoice and documentation that I will pass along to the school business administrator, school business manager for our payment. And I've asked for full documentation. I have asked for receipts. I've asked for invoicing that is in depth. So if not, please let me know. And if there's any other questions that I missed on that, the committee could please throw them out at me, and I could try and answer those.
So I would just like to add one comment in regard to why we requested a draft report. One of the reasons that we wanted that draft report, this isn't something that this committee is used to doing and would have expected to need to do to request an investigation into an incident such as this. We wanted to have a sense of what the investigator was doing, if they were not on the right direction, if we thought they were headed in the wrong direction, we want to have an opportunity to point them in the right direction. As it turned out, I think based on the preliminary information that they provided, it looked like that they were moving in the right direction. As Chairman McGee mentioned, they were struggling with setting up interviews with all of the individuals that they felt and that we felt needed to be talked to. And so we were able to collectively help get that process completed. The holidays, et cetera, did have an impact on the timing of it, but I'd rather us be thorough and take a little bit longer to get there than not be thorough in a matter such as this. So I just want to add that.
I appreciate that additional clarification. We did want to make sure they were on the right path. We were hiring someone that didn't have a clear law enforcement background in terms of, we were sure that they had conducted these type of investigations before. But as I had talked about before, I think even someone with a law enforcement background would have had a difficult time trying to track everyone down and pin down a good time for them to interview, especially, now having someone on the Cape do it might have been a little easier, but having someone off Cape made it a little more difficult, a little more time consuming. An investigator did come down and tried to have a full day down here, not just come down for 30 minutes or come down for an hour or come down for 2 hours. The investigator tried to have a full day and not waste a trip. And once again, I want to reiterate that the public employees were fantastic and extremely cooperative. And I'm going to the first thing on my plate is to make sure this report is released as soon as possible.
I got a question for you, Scott.
Please.
One thing that I'm sure we've heard over and over again, I'm sure you heard it yourself, is when we first took the vote to, seek out the investigator, we decided on a certain date, we had an approximate amount of money, things like that. When the details were being worked out, why was there, and there might be a valid reason or not, but I'd kind of like to know why there wasn't a contract or any kind of written agreement with us, between us and the investigator.
Sure. I've talked to several persons involved with school contracting. I don't want to point out anyone in particular, but the process for RFPs, the request for proposals, that type of thing. I talked to persons involved with, for example, you might need an RFP for certain things, but for example, we buy iPads or we buy Chromebooks. We receive an invoice and the five school committee members sign it, and that's it. That's the end of the story. Well, that's not necessarily the end of the story. Persons like Paul Funk and the accounting office at Town Hall will review all those things, and Paul Funk reviews it. Darlene Phelan reviews it and then brings it to us to sign. It's a similar process with this. I've also talked to the attorney about it early on. Is that we didn't need a contract. It's a vendor service. Essentially, it's not a specific service for such as busing, that kind of thing. It's not a similar service such as. It escapes me right now to think of another. But it's not necessarily, it's not a singular person that's going to remain with us for, an extended period of time. For example, Patricia DeBoer needs a contract. She's going to remain with us. This is an isolated, couple of month subject where, now it does look a little strange that we don't have a contract because we contract everything usually. But I was advised that you do not need a contract for this type of thing. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, sort of. I mean, obviously, it doesn't necessarily even like a formal contract, but any kind of, I know they gave us an estimate, but even any kind of written agreement, because the problem that could arise, and I hope it doesn't, I don't believe it will, but it might, is when you're dealing with any kind of services business, they can tell you one thing, especially, when this was supposed to end in November, and here we are in January, we could get that final bill, and it could be, astronomical. It could be all kinds of things added to that, and it's tough to go back to something when we don't really have any agreement, anything in writing saying this is what I needed to do. If we had said in writing, this is the deadline we want it by, obviously, if you go beyond that, that needs to be negotiated into the price. And there's other reasons, like you said, and I understand sometimes you can't reach people, lawyers get in the way, people don't return phone calls or whatever, but, that's not really our problem. That's the problem of the company that you hire. I ran a home computer business for myself for many years, and if I can't get in to work on somebody's computer and I can't get it fixed, that's not their problem, that's mine. It's hindsight, but I think that probably should have been something that, should have happened. At least something in writing,
Well, what we do have in writing is the October 28th letter from DataQuest describing the hourly rate and the other services that would incur a monetary remittance. And I believe it's right around December 1st. The Cape Cod Times, I believe, has it. I'm told the Cape Cod Times has some of the public records requests information posted on its website, or had it posted on the website, but I believe it's in your email, and if not, I can resend it. But at that, Ryan, the time frame of December 1st, it was I asked for an estimated number of hours and the estimated time frame that has been put into it. And I did some quick math, and to me, it seems like we were, I was hoping that we could spend, I could never put a number on it, but I was hoping we would spend, a lot fewer dollars than a great amount of dollars. So I think that, ultimately, I think we have an honest organization. DataQuest that's going to, instead of charges for 24 hours around the clock, they're going to charge us specifically, directly, and targeted towards the hours that they drove here, the hours that they made the actual interviews, and then the hours that they drove back home, and then plus the mileage. I think it's going to be straightforward, and if it's not, I'm going to throw a big hissy fit about it with the investigator myself before he even gets to Paul Punk. So I'm going to scrutinize it myself, and so we're in a little bit of a unique situation, so we will see how it goes. Does that help at all?
No, it does. I mean, I just wanted to voice my concern because I know we've heard those concerns. I know you
Yes.
have. So, I just wanted to,
Well, we did,
hit on that.
I did ask them for DataQuest a sample contract, but that was for a private entity. It was for maybe a hotel or that type of thing. And so, seeing as they do some different services in this, and seeing as this was going to turn into something that lasted a lot longer than we were expecting, I think it would have been hard to give a hard and fast deadline. And so, hopefully everyone's happy with the report. It's detailed, and hopefully it costs very few dollars, or a lot less than, I don't want it to be exorbitant. And so hopefully when I have the invoice, I will, if you hear a lot of screaming, it's because I'm upset. And so we will find out, and I hope to get that soon.
I had two
Please.
very quick things. Normally, like we've mentioned before, the process for invoices. I, for one, would like to see the invoice before I have to sit down and sign it.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. As soon as I get the invoice, I'm going to send it to Paul, and then I'll send it to the membership. All members will have it.
and I had, for me, words always matter, and I try to pick my words very succinctly. And a couple times when we were talking about the draft report, the word "we" was used, and I can't speak for Chris or George, but I never requested a draft report. So
Yes.
don't include me in that.
Well, I'd say it as, I should say the body. Maybe I should use the term body or the term committee or the term, because once we make, say the vote is 3-2 on anything, we still have to go forward with what we did and,
No, I didn't request a draft report.
right.
We said we requested a draft report. I didn't, I showed up to a meeting and I was given a draft report.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Hearing none, we will move on to update on and discussion surrounding policies, procedures, practices, and protocols related to a September 29th home visit by Superintendent Brian Hyde. Now, Chris was interested in adding this subject, so we will let him lead off.
All right, appreciate it. Really, the biggest reason why I wanted to add this is because it's been a long time since we really talked about this in public. We've had a few executive sessions, and rightfully so, because when you're dealing with any kind of legal issue that's still ongoing, you kind of have to keep that executive. But, why I wanted this particular agenda on here today is because, we got the court date coming up, and we got a lot of things moving, quickly at this point. It is already January 6th. And our next meeting is on the 20th, which is going to be after the court date, and we're going to be asked to make decisions, I'm sure, in very short order. And, this has been going on for a long time. And again, I'm not going to talk on, opinions or on the court case itself, but I just wanted to make sure that before we left here today that the committee understands where I'm coming from, so that way when, for the next 2 weeks, while the dust settles and all the reports come out and, everybody has some things to think about and where I feel that we need to focus. We obviously have the court case, and that's going to resolve itself one way or another. But this whole matter is a lot more than just what the judge is going to decide, January 15th or whatever date that actually does happen. We have a lot of things that we have to consider that no judge, you know, nobody in the public, and nobody else is going to make that decision for us. We have to make that decision with the information at hand, which is why we have the investigative report, the independent report, because the police report was great, has a lot of good information in it to, you know, lead us in whatever direction we choose. But whatever comes out of the court, you know, with the misdemeanor charges, is not going to tell us the conduct. It's not going to tell us, you know, whether or not Mr. Hyde was acting professionally or not. There's a lot of things that are not going to come out of the legal aspects of this. And, you know, the independent investigation is going to give us more information. We've gotten emails. We've had people speak in front of us. We've had letters come in. You know, it's gotten to the point where we have a great deal of information, and it's time that we stop being neutral about this and really start thinking about, you know, what needs to happen and where we need to go. It's not just about the court case as well. It does play a piece in it, but that's not really what it's all about. You know, there's history, there's, you know, tracking a lot of different things. So, you know, it was important to me to make sure that we as a committee know that we're not just looking at this. The courts are going to handle the legal aspect. We are not here to do that. We are here as employers to look into the situation from an employer's situation and, you know, make a decision based on the facts that we have at hand. And I know I can speak for myself, and I'm sure the rest of the committee feels the same way. When we were first given this information and we were first sitting with this news, everybody has their own personal opinions, but as a committee member, you've got to stay neutral. And I did just that. I've done my research. I've spent hundreds of hours going back and forth on things, and I'm going this way and that way, and I'm sure everybody else did as well. But like I said, I think we've come to the point where we really need to start nailing this down and, you know, deciding one way or another. And I'd hate to see, you know, any more meetings where we just kind of say, well, I'm not really sure yet, you know. It's coming fast and quick, and I think it's about that time.
Yeah, we're going to have to, at some point after the criminal proceedings have completed, we're going to have a meeting about a lot of different things. And so I think we have to wait for, you know, we can talk about the other subjects, but I think, in my opinion, I think we have to wait for, to talk about employment-related install or not, reinstall or not, at another time. You know, after the adjudication, you know, either way. And, you know, another subject I want to talk about was, I think going forward, we're going to, I don't know if anyone else had talked to Patty about this, but talking to Patty, she had indicated to me that going forward, the school district would have, you know, hire an independent person privately, independent person, a professional that would go and make home checks, because, you know, technically the police department does not work for the school district. The police department is called when we need assistance. For example, on the day that this home visit was made. And maybe Patty can expand on that discussion that we had.
Well, Chairman McGee had asked about whether we have ever considered using a private agency to do some of the investigations when we suspect a family is a non-resident family. I do think it's an option worth exploring. We will probably still continue to, what we normally do is start with our school resource officer, who often will, you know, check cars, drive by at night, nothing, you know, no home visit, nothing invasive. But if it's the committee's decision that they would like to explore using a service like that, then we would have to, you know, go out and get see what interest is there and contract with a particular firm or an individual. Often they're retired police officers who do this. If it's the committee's choice to make it a little bit more neutral, maybe, in terms of that. But there are times when you do need to make a home visit in terms of validating residency.
Yeah, and sometimes those are very rare, is what I assume. And I can imagine that it can't be more than or less, it's probably less than $100 an hour to hire someone like that, and I can't imagine it would happen more than 2-3 times a year. So maybe it's a little more, but I think that our administrators and our faculty should be concerned about teaching and learning and running their buildings and running their classrooms and running their programs instead of, taking those actions. And so, if you have, any members have any comments on that, they can certainly contact Patty at any time or speak up now. And if anyone else has anyone on this agenda item, please speak up.
First, just two more things. One on that one particular item. I personally don't think it's necessary to go private because I think kind of a waste of funds. But because there are easy ways to check residency. I mean, you can go on the county deeds office, the website, which is free, and if somebody gets to the point where we feel like we need to hire an outside agency to check residency, then maybe we're going a little too far, and that those people might need Mashpee schools more than we need them out of here. But and I don't mean that to say anything about tax dollars because I know that's very, very important. But education is very important as well. And the last thing on the on this piece that we're talking about is I do agree before we make any kind of public or even private vote or decision on what we're actually going to do. That wasn't my intent. I just want to reiterate and make it very clear that in my opinion, and I hope the rest of the committee believes this as well, that the legal part of this process is not the be all say all of this decision that we have to make, and it's my opinion that it doesn't play a very large role in it at all. If we have a lot of information, and if there's one thing that we're missing, and that is the legal part. And at this point, we have 2, maybe 3 weeks before we're going to be probably asked to at least start something, or asked a lot of questions because there'll be nothing left to collect. You should be able to have it in your mind where you can say, okay, if the legal proceedings are only going to turn out one of 2 ways, you can look at it and say, okay, if it turns out this way, given the other information at hand, we can start thinking about how that would be handled. If it turns out the other way, given the information at hand that's not changing, what direction would you go as an individual and how should the committee handle it? But I do think that, that's something that needs to start, like now. So.
You done?
Yes, I'm done.
I just want to say start now as in, we want to have a meeting about it, or?
I'm happy to talk about, obviously we can't talk about the legal proceedings or the superintendent's position, his status of his position, but anything anybody wants to talk about, I'm happy to talk about, any part of this. But that's up to each individual committee member. Make sure it's
Right. So a few thoughts here. As I said earlier, this is a unusual situation. No committee wants to have to go through these type of events, and clearly, as committee member Smith has reiterated a couple times to the committee members, he didn't know that this was what he was signed up for. I don't think anyone expected to have to go through this type of situation. That being said, in my opinion, the fact that Superintendent Hyde is going through litigation, that has obviously, in my opinion, complicated some of the process and drawn out some of the process, because at least I think we don't want to make decisions that would have any potential impact one way or the other. in regard to the outcome of that litigation. I think that it's important that Mr. Hyde have the opportunity to represent himself in the best manner possible, and let the judicial process take its course without being influenced one way or the other, and based, as we're trying to do, based upon the facts and not personal sentiment or political influence or whatever it is that you call it. So, you know, to Chris's point, you know, there is hopefully a day of reckoning that's coming up here that will provide a piece of evidence to this committee in regard to the judicial view of what they think happened. Obviously, we have collected information, or the investigator, I believe, has collected information. We've all seen copies of the initial police report. And, you know, we've also have received commentary from other individuals that have come to the committee and have expressed their opinion one way or the other. And so we have to take that all into consideration. As Chris has mentioned, I think this is not just a singular instance or a singular incident. As an employer, we have to take into consideration everything in totality and use this as a bookmark and say, okay, this happened. You know, what does that mean? And you know, determine whether or not the facts substantiate what has been reported, and make a determination in regard to the reliance we put on that. I think also we have responsibility then to say, all right, is there a systemic issue here that we need to think about, and determine whether or not that represents something that is or is not actionable within the purview of the committee. You know, I think we have to act, and I think we have acted, I'm trying to think of the word, judiciously, although maybe painfully slow in some people's opinion, in this process. But as I said earlier, I'd rather be the tortoise and get it right than be the hare who determines that we did it wrong. So, you know, I will also take an opportunity here to commend Ms. DeBoer and all of the administrators at the schools, the teachers, and everyone who, even with all of this taking place, have continued to put the focus on educating our kids. That's why we're here. That's why I'm on this committee. That's why, you know, as earlier, you know, I want to talk about expanding our programs, educating our kids, you know. And Chris, I would love to get this resolved and move forward, get back to focusing only on the business at hand, which is, you know, maximizing the potential of each and every one of the kids here in Mashpee, because I do think we have a wonderful program. I think we have a wonderful administration and a wonderful group of people. And obviously, people want to come here. And I think we've got a great asset, and we're trying to do our best to move that forward. And, I think we will get to whatever that decision is relatively quick once we have once the litigation has been completed. I think this committee should be in a point where we would be able to make a decision relatively quick. I think committee members probably have weighed the evidence that we have received to date, and will weigh, obviously, the evidence provided by the investigator. We'll also weigh the results of the litigation. I know, or I believe, Mr. McGee, there would have to be, regardless, a meeting with Mr. Hyde, where he potentially, or he will have an opportunity to address questions that the committee may have. I believe that happens in executive session, but
Yes, sir.
That's another part of the process that this committee has to go through. And, I think that the committee members will take all of that into totality and make the right decision. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Make some good points. But now, just
Now,
one
what?
one last thing on that.
Okay.
The reason why I brought up some of that stuff was with the criminal aspect of it. Because I had mentioned that about getting the information and see where they. And I agree that no decision should be made at this point with a legal case pending as of right now. But they are going to look at two things. They're going to look at, did he or did he not come in with permission or without permission?
Mhm.
And was he asked to leave or not leave, and did he leave? They're not going to look at all at how he behaved, whether it was inappropriate or not, what his conduct was, why he was there in the first place. None of that stuff is going to be even looked at in court. They're not going to obviously make a decision on it. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is, and again, I'm not trying to force a decision right now, because obviously that's way out of line and out of our purview for this meeting. But, I felt I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about it and say, at least, this is what I want to make sure, and where my mindset's coming from. I want the committee to know, and I hope the committee's looking at it the same way, because we don't speak very often as a committee. So I want to make sure before the next meeting that we had this conversation, so we could talk about what is actually going to come out of the last piece to this puzzle, and what we already have at hand, minus the conclusion of the report that I'm sure we'll get within the next couple of days. But that's really the biggest thing was, this legal aspect, there's been so much weight put on it. And yes, there is a considerable amount of weight on it for one individual. But as a committee decision, I personally do not feel that it should weigh as much as it's being looked at as far as where we move forward with this entire decision.
If you're, to paraphrase you, all right, to paraphrase you, if you're saying that the results of the trial are the be-all, end-all, and dictate the decision that the committee makes, I don't believe that that is the sole factor that the committee is going to evaluate. I know it's not the sole factor I'm evaluating. So I can't speak for, the other members, but I would expect that each of the committee members will evaluate all of the information that's available to them, and make decisions based upon that. I'm not, personally, I'm not delegating my decision to somebody else to make. You know, I will make my decision, I will defend my decision regardless, but I'm not delegating it to particularly someone I don't even know. So my decision is independent of that decision. I will take it into consideration. I think it needs to be weighed and evaluated as part of as part of all of the information that we have received. Your point, you know, one of the things that we were trying to get some insight into through the private investigator was facts and circumstances surrounding the event to get some frame of reference. I think we have some of that, at least was in the preliminary report. Maybe there's more in the final report. I don't know. We have not had a discussion with Superintendent Hyde. There may be more information that he could share or questions that he could answer in regard to that. But if your point is, you know, judge says guilty, he's out, I don't think that that's, you know, in my opinion, I don't think that that's how we make a decision here. I don't think anyone is delegating their decision to the judge.
And I wouldn't think that, but obviously, I think one of the other problems that we've had is because we haven't talked about it, and it's obviously the fault of the committee, maybe not thinking too much ahead. We've had a lot of talk in executive. So a lot of times that's either how rumors spread or people start getting frustrated. And, you know, on one hand you can say, well, you know, I have a decision to make and we need to take the time, which is definitely true. But we also have an obligation to the public, not necessarily to make a rush decision, but to at least keep them informed as to what we're doing, what we're looking at, what we're going to base our decision on, what information we have at hand. And that was really the biggest basis for me wanting this item added to the agenda tonight, was to make sure that, you know, we do get more information out to the public. We do let them know that, you know, we're looking at multiple, you know, things to make our decision. We're not just focusing on one thing. You know, that we are moving forward, we are having discussion, and we're not, you know, playing this waiting game, and that we are putting in the work. And I think there are a lot of people that see that, but there are also a lot of people that don't, and they're curious, and you know, I just like to get as much out there as possible and to the public here, and
Well,
you know, we'll move forward from there.
so, you know, I just wanted to be clear, at least from my opinion, I'm not delegating my vote to the judge. My vote is based upon, you know, my interpretation of the evidence. You know, that is obviously a part of it, but, you know, and I think that may be the case for each and every one here. And I think, you know, that's the responsibility of the committee. The committee is to be independent. You know, we have to look at everything in totality. And I think that's what we're attempting to do here. That is our job. So let's, you know, and I think we're doing our job, maybe painfully slow, but we're doing our job. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything further? Hearing nothing, we will move on to subcommittee reports. And first item would be, we had a vote on December 16th, 2015, to accept the first read of policy JF school admission, policy JFBB surrounding school choice, and also IF, which is a multi-tiered system of support framework. And there were two votes that evening that we were discussing and we voted on. And you know, it was my fault that we maybe we're moving like a hare instead of a tortoise. Thank you, Mr. Myers. And so we were going to, we would like to rescind that, and we're going to rescind both of those, and I think we can probably do them, we can probably bulk them together. It looks like Mr. Schmidt, I'm sorry, it looks like Mr. Santos made the motion on both, and then it looks like, let's see, it looks like Mr. Gorman, actually, Mr. Santos made the motion on the first, and then Mr. Gorman made the motion on the second item. But we can just take them both and rescind them, and then we can go ahead and make a new motion, since it's in the packet and on the agenda and listed as a vote. We can do that second portion immediately after. So we will entertain a motion to rescind vote of December 16th, 2015, to accept first read of policy JF school admission, JFBB school choice, IF multi-tiered system of support framework.
I move to rescind the vote of December 16, 2015 to accept first read of the policy JF school admission, JFBB school choice, IF multi-tiered system of support framework.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have any discussion?
That was a good one. And I
was
just
quick.
want to say that I take responsibility for the open meeting law, the alleged open meeting law violation. Mrs. DeBoer and I and Mr. Schmidt came in on a Saturday because we were very passionate about the policy, and unfortunately we cut the timeline a little bit too short. So there was no shadiness intended, and I happily rescind the vote. So move to rescind the vote, excuse me.
Thank you. I also should have, I take some culpability. I should have said we didn't have the full process in place, and there was, as you said, there was no intent to deceive or rush anything through. So we do have a second, and we will, for rescind of the vote on December 16th, so we will have a roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And I think we should also, just to be, I don't even know if we should probably rescind the what's the word I'm looking for? We should rescind the amended first read, because that's all gonna go away, and then we'll just deal with the item 11.1.2. So I will make a motion to rescind the amended policy as presented in the December 16th meeting regarding multi-tier system of support framework for improving the education performance of all students, IF and GFBB and JF.
Second.
Do we have any discussion? Hearing none, we will roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Next item would be, we have a first read vote for policy JF, school admission, first read JFBB, school choice, first read IF, multi-tier system of support framework. So we have the proposed policy, 3 policies. And we also have a opinion by council. The opinion by council asks that we not do it for this year, the school admission. I mean, I assume that we could certainly go forward for the following of the upcoming years. It also talks about, in policy JF, the italicized portion, I think the wording might be that sentence is too finite. It leaves it, we've talked in the past about how we want to leave it a little more broad, some of these policies. If anyone has any comments, please, Patty? Anything?
The only thing I would say about the wording that we added to that school admissions policy was wording that came from Nauset Regional's policy, which was approved on July of 2015, July 1st. So I think that was somewhat giving us confidence that it was a good addition to our policy, and that's where we made the move from.
When I look at the opinion provided by the attorney, they were questioning in regard to that, you know, residency is not just where the student sleeps, which I don't think that's what we said. I think we said during the days and evenings, but they seem to be focused on where they slept. You know, I do agree. I think that, you know, there's a element of judgment that has to be made in each and every case. You know, even based upon the wording that we have here.
I mean, it's very interesting when you get the opinions, and especially of the fact that the only people in the district that can approve out-of-resident admissions is the school committee. So the only people that has to agree with the residency requirement is the school committee on behalf of the citizens of Mashpee. So I'm not afraid to call my baby ugly. So if we need to, do a little bit more work on making sure everybody's comfortable with this, that's why it's a first read, and I'm sure that myself and Mrs. DeBoer and George Schmidt, in conjunction with limited legal interaction, we can figure out something that's amenable.
Well, if truly the school committee is the only one who could approve a non-resident.
I don't want to misword that. We have the authority to approve a non-resident to attend school.
Right.
Yeah.
And if the potential intent is understanding the facts and circumstances surrounding each case, do you just emphasize the authority that the committee has, and in each case, the committee would determine what's required? I don't know.
Yeah, that was actually kind of against what we were trying to do as a holistically. But I don't want to separate the two because they kind of, they're not intertwined, but they go together.
Okay.
And if you look more strategically, we were attempting to make a policy that wasn't a procedure, but it was a policy that can kind of imply intent. And the intent is that this is what, at the particular moment right now, is what the school committee, whatever language you determine, is what the school committee is determined is something that will justify and satisfy what we consider residency in Mashpee. So that we don't have to have 100 people in line up here asking for basically waived tuition.
Okay.
I don't see how that's not clear enough. If you reside somewhere during the day and evenings, you live there.
Yeah, there's been a big, I've heard the term many times over the last year about students' domestic, social, and civil life. And I think that was actually added in there at some point, and I forgot the case law, and it's not on Kate, but it's case law that talks about, people who live with their grandmother during the week and then go home on the weekend. And, we don't need to have another philosophical debate, but to be honest with you, who cares?
Exactly.
And as far as I'm concerned, but again, that's the discussion that we can have about exactly what we want to prove here. And again, they say that's too narrow. I think by adding the domestic, social, and civil life part in there, that's what makes it too narrow, but we can discuss.
I guess I would expect if they're attending school that is the center of their...
Yeah, I guess, yeah.
Right, is here in Mashpee, so...
Yeah, and it does happen with, say, a divorced couple where the mother or father will have them during the school
Right, the
majority of
joint
the school, and
custody.
then during the summertime, they go stay with the other parent, so, you know, I don't wanna muddy that.
No definition, I think, as Don was alluding to, is
Yeah.
gonna perfectly resemble every case that's gonna come,
No.
you know, into the district, but you know, with what's been going on, it'd be nice to be able to deflect a little bit away from the interpretation, lack of an ability
Lack
to
of
interpret a
interpretation.
policy, you know.
Well, you do kind of allude, this is a policy and in theory should not be a procedure.
Exactly, yeah.
But if you're trying, if the intent is to provide clarification so that the procedures have more direction.
Yeah, I mean, more guidance. I mean, you would expect that a policy should be able to let, you know, 6 disparate administrative entities, and there's not 6, but I'm using that number randomly, 6 disparate independent entities to be able to, they would have, all their procedures, even if they didn't talk about it, should be very close together,
All right.
you know.
Well, I think we should, you know, address the legislature on the law. I mean, the law is the law, and we can't, you know, we're lowly school committee members, you know, and I'd love to change the law, but we can't do that.
I don't get that comment.
You know, the law is, you know, it talks about where you rest your head, you know, and anyone who wants to analyze whether they're available or, you know, or if they're eligible to attend Mashpee schools can look up the law. You know, I don't think we need a policy that describes the law, is what I'm trying to say. Because if we did, we would have, in every policy we would have a little blurb about what the law means, you know, and then we would have.
Well, that's the issue. There is no definition in the law, MGL, about what residency is. And
Well,
I
it's
mean,
a vague.
Clearly, if you think back on the last 4 months, we've had some issues about what everybody thinks residency means. And again, you know, I'm not gonna force this down anybody's throat. I mean, we're all gonna vote on this at some point, and you know, that'll be the ultimate decision. But if we as a school committee decide what we think the definition of residency in our district is, it doesn't make any difference what anybody else thinks, because we have the authority to let anybody come here and be a student.
Yes, if they, sure, if they approach the committee and ask for that we could, you know, let anyone in, depending on the vote of the committee, you know.
Right. I mean, I'm more than happy to back down on in the residency definition, but and again, I'm only looking in a 2-inch book that, you know, the select, I can't remember the exact, it's like select MGL for schools. Yeah, everyone knows what I'm talking about, the book they give out to us.
Yeah.
And there is no residency definition in that entire book, even when it talks about school committee. It does say resident. Again, that's not a definition, that's a word.
Honestly, in my opinion, I guess I could see the only thing that would make this maybe a little better would be to add at the end maybe with a parent or guardian, an official parent or guardian that's listed, you know, with the school, on the school documentation. You know what I mean, that they're within the domicile during the days and evenings of the days school is in session with, you know, parent or guardian or whatever. So that way, you know, I guess that would be the only way you could really eliminate them saying that they're staying with a friend or an aunt or uncle or whatever. I mean, if we really wanted to nitpick, I would think that would be the most stringent we should go.
Parent or legal guardian?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess a question for Chairman McGee.
Please.
I recall reading somewhere in our policies that the committee does have the purview, although we don't generally exercise it, the purview into procedures. Is that, do I recall that being correct?
Procedures in terms of?
Procedures in regard to implementation of policies.
Yes, I mean, we're the ultimate last step on the policies, if that's the question.
No, policies are your top level,
Yes.
then they get interpreted into procedures, which are then implemented by the various schools.
Yeah, typically, the superintendent, with consultation with administration will create practices, protocols that support the procedures, the policies, right?
Right.
And we could work with the superintendent or administration to say, we would like you to move in this direction, if that's what you're saying, and
Well, I think Mr. Gorman's concern is that we're trying to provide more details on how the procedures should be set that implement this policy. And I'm just wondering whether, that detail should be left in the procedures or practices and versus putting more details into the policy, and that we work on coming up with the right practices and procedures.
yeah, for example, there was an issue with some of the checklists of what the registrars would look through, I think 12 or 10 or 13 or 12 items, and there was some question as to why the three buildings, didn't have the same checklist. And then Patty worked with that group of those buildings to make sure that they have all the exact same things. Now, if we say to the administration, the superintendent, that, this is what we would like, could you please do that? They would either make arguments against it or say, that's a great idea, let's do it, or they'll say, we've already done that, or we're thinking about doing that. Would you agree?
I would. I think what Mr. Gorman was talking about is coming up with some implied an understanding among people who put the policy into practice as to, we all agree, these are the requirements to be considered a resident. We sort of have that in the checklist in terms of documents that you produce, but it does, it gets a little open to interpretation when given the mixture of family types today.
Yeah, for example, does a purchase and sales agreement count? That's would be my first question. Is that something that all schools agree on in this district? I think we could definitely have that discussion.
Yeah,
I think we-
that's a procedure.
Yes.
Right.
Right,
Right.
and so,
And what if
I
you
mean,
don't
I-
have two bills? What if you don't have a water bill and a light bill? What do you do then?
well, but I get back to Chris's comment. So what if I'm a student who has a shared living arrangement? So, half the time I'm here, half the time I'm in Sandwich.
Yeah, the combinations are endless, right?
Right?
So-
And so if I interpret our guidance that we would provide here, and now I'm gonna interpret it, it says, well, that's not they don't meet the residency requirement. But,
The
we may
existing- but the
decide,
existing policy has no residency requirement, just says residency,
right, it doesn't define it,
right? So you're in the same situation.
yeah.
Yeah, and so I think we have to, I think we should make suggestions about, or have discussion about how we feel about the checklist, and what is acceptable and what is not.
Well, and here's what concerns me as well, because I understand your point as to, the committee makes the decisions, as far as if somebody was to appeal it, in that matter. But like you said in your email, the people that have left or whatever said all of whom did not seek remedy for tuition through the school committee. And from what I understand, they all pretty much just got letters saying you have to leave, and whenever you've been given the information to come see the school committee, or that was available. And that's concerning, because if we don't set up a way for families who and you could say, well, it's their job to do the research, and it's really not, because there's so much stuff surrounding schools and so much documentation everywhere for everything, and people have other things going on. Things happen. They don't know where to find stuff. They don't know it's even a rule or a law. If we set people up for failure, they're going to fail. And to be honest with you, it's on us. If this kind of thing is happening where people aren't aware that they could have come to the school committee, I find it hard to believe that 13 people, not one of them would have even wrote a letter, called, anything. So I'm not going to point fingers at anybody or post blame, but that's an issue that I'd rather not see be left open to interpretation, or something that the school committee needs to be worried about every single time.
Well, I think we can put that, we might have to put that subject on, this subject on the agenda for future meetings. There's no doubt about that. How do we navigate all these issues?
I think that you don't want to make it super easy for families to just feel that they can always go to the school committee, but you also, I think we have to do what's in the best interest of each student and their family in their given situation, and often any kind of leaving during a school year is disruptive to the student and the family, and so it's trying to kind of reach or create a climate where families and students come first, but not putting something specifically in a policy that's then going to sort of be a potential abuse. I don't know how to say that right.
You have a great point, but another way to look at it, an additional way to look at it, is to also try and promote having people that stay in Mashpee. Let's try and maybe some people may want a policy that says, or that creates a framework where we want to make Mashpee exclusive to people who are residents of Mashpee. If you're going to move, please find another domicile in Mashpee. There are some people that believe that way. Consume the stock of real estate that is out there in Mashpee before going to Sandwich or just Falmouth or to any other. So we do have some serious issues we have to navigate and opinions we have to hammer out. But for the time being, we can work on this. I think we should probably go policy by policy and talk about JF. And then I will promise to make sure this agenda is on future items on future agendas. Does anyone have any comments about JF or how they want to proceed?
So I guess my thoughts in regard to JF, instead of the wording residing within the domicile, I would suggest that we replace that with residing with a Mashpee resident who is a parent or legal guardian during the days and evenings that they days and evenings of the days the school is in session. I think that clarifies, they're living with a Mashpee resident.
Could you repeat that?
Sure. So I'm suggesting that where, instead of where we have the wording within the domicile, we replace that with a Mashpee resident who is a parent or legal guardian. So it would read, living within the town or district is interpreted as actually residing with a Mashpee resident who is a parent or legal guardian during the days and evenings of the days that school is in session. I think, to me, that wordsmithing clarifies it a little bit. Mr. Gorman, do you have a thought?
Yeah, I think that sounds good, and I would actually change the beginning of the comment now to living within the town. It should be, I think, like residency as defined by the school district. Or something of the sort, because that's really what it is. It's not living within the town.
Okay, so can you provide a revised wording?
residency as defined.
So,
I just say residency is defined as.
so residency is defined
As actually residing with a Mashpee resident. And the end of it was what, who is also a legal parent or guardian, or how have you had the last part? You had it pretty
who
good.
is a parent or legal guardian during the days and evenings of the days that school is in session.
I think you would need a little something before the word parent, because you're not, it could be anybody's parent.
Yeah, I mean, we're stating the obvious too. I mean,
Anybody who is a parent, you could live with them. I mean,
Who
you,
is their parent?
Okay, their parent,
or their guardian,
Well, their parent or legal guardian.
or, yeah,
or their legal guardian.
Or
Could be
their.
anyone's legal guardian.
I'd be a stretch gargoyle.
Huh? Hey, you want me to vote on it? You want me to agree? It's gonna put there in there twice.
if we could revise that and bring it back for a reading.
so is the final version, residency is defined as living with a Mashpee resident who is their parent or legal guardian
Yes.
within the
Or their
domicile?
legal guardian.
You took out within the
Scott gets his way.
domicile.
And
Yeah,
I didn't, it's actually residing.
Actually
who is
residing.
actually residing.
Residency is defined as actually residing with a Mashpee resident who is their parent or their legal guardian.
EIR.
Yeah,
I knew you would. It's phonics.
So 10 words and the baby is gorgeous.
okay.
So let's have a vote on, you wanna do these, we can do these as a group, or we wanna have a vote on JF as to approve it for first read. Let's do that.
I move to approve JF as first read.
Second?
Discussion, hearing none, roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes?
Yes.
I tried.
I got you got one too fast. The amendment, it should be as amended.
Yes.
Oh, my apologies. So I'm going to amend my motion and amend it.
So your motion is to approve
The motion
that-
is to approve policy JF as amended,
Yes, as a first read.
as a first read.
Thank you.
Amend my second again.
Any
Yes, no.
Discussion, yes?
Huh?
It's getting tough.
We're trying to follow the rules.
No, it's true. That's what we got in trouble last time.
No, I'm on.
Okay. Did we vote?
So we have a vote, we have a motion, right? So we have a second by
Chris?
Chris, and we have a roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Right.
finally, move on.
JBB, section 7.
I actually, hopefully won't make Mrs. DeBoer too mad. I actually think we need to table this,
Yeah, I do too.
maybe do first read on this policy during the January 20th thing. I mean, there's just too much legalese right now that we need to wade through. I still think it's a very viable policy, and I think we can make this work where we can shift the focus to the kids and still not spend any money, or a very limited amount of money. And I want to make sure it works, because I don't want to put it in place and then have poor Mr. Funk, in debtor's prison.
And we also have to decide whether we even will vote for school choice or not. That's,
Well, I mean, that's all part of it too. If
Yeah.
there's no school choice, if we don't vote for school choice, then this is a moot, this whole policy comes out of the policy, so it's moot.
so Mr. Gorman is going to suggest we table JFBB? Okay, let's do that.
I move to table JFBB until the January 20th school committee meeting.
Second, anyone?
Second,
And discussion? Hearing none, roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Next is, I lost mine, but it's the multi-tiered. Multi-tiered looks good, right?
I move to approve policy IF as written.
For a first read.
For first read. To approve the first read.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll roll call for Mr. Gorman.
Yes.
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 Yes, thank you. Next item on the agenda is events and happenings. You have your calendars in your packet. And also they are on the website. There are plenty of activities to get involved with. Please do. Next item on the agenda is adjournment. Please, before we adjourn.
George isn't here.
May I ask the committee one question in respect to a student, for example, who is going to be leaving the district on Friday? Are we to offer them the opportunity to write to the school committee to request to stay for the balance of the year, or no?
I think so, but sure.
As far as I'm concerned, that's always an option, right?
Yeah, I personally think we should inform the student of all of their rights. Make sure that they know those.
So in terms of sort of the procedures we follow, in the letters that go to each student with their exit date, I think we should add a sentence that says that they could write a letter to appeal to the school committee to stay.
Yeah, and we also have to consider that, I can't imagine that maybe the school committee, this school committee or future school committees have a certain thought process, but for example, if someone has an exit date letter, are we gonna have a special meeting just for one student? Are we gonna wait till the 20th? Are we gonna do it on specifically assigned school committee scheduled meetings? I mean, so that's an issue we have to think about. If it's a hardship that's an emergency, do we meet right away? So just we have to think about that. I'm willing to meet. It just, can we get a quorum?
Is there any reason why, a student isn't automatically, left in this district until the school committee makes the decision?
That's a good
I
question.
suppose it could be part of the procedure that once the letter goes out with that ending date, if we were to receive a letter back, they would be staying until that letter was addressed by the committee.
In public,
Something like
public.
that.
In public, yeah.
Yeah.
That would
In the
make
next
sense.
public meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not this is not really a new protocol. I know we probably should make it much more formalized, but I think Superintendent Hyde brought up at least 2 or 3 to the committee during regular session that we voted on, I believe.
Yeah, I think in the past, it was always in that last term of the school year.
That's right.
Was when
Yeah,
you
that's right.
usually did that.
Any further comments, questions, concerns?